There's this incredible story that's been hiding in plain sight for well over a century. It's the story of how an ancient Eastern philosophy quietly, almost secretly, shaped the very soul of America. It influenced our greatest poets, our deepest thinkers, and yeah, even the scientists who unlocked the power of the atom. This is the story of Vedanta's unseen influence.
That line, it sends a chill down your spine, doesn't it? It's one of the most haunting lines in all of modern history, and it was spoken by J. Robert Oppenheimer, the father of the atomic bomb, in the moments right after he witnessed his creation work for the first time. It was the awesome and utterly terrifying dawn of the nuclear age. So the big question is, how on earth does a line from an ancient Hindi scripture end up in the mind of the man who built the bomb? Well, to answer that, we have to follow this amazing kind of hidden thread that connects 19th century New England, the deserts of New Mexico, and believe it or not, the challenges we're all facing right now with artificial intelligence.
Now, our story doesn't begin with a mushroom cloud. Nope. It begins with a book, specifically a book called the Bhagavad Gita, and its long journey across the ocean, where it landed in the hands of a small group of thinkers who were about to completely reshape the mind of a nation.
It all started when the first English translations began to appear. By the 1830s and 40s, these books found their way to a guy named Ralph Waldo Emerson and his circle, the Transcendentalists. And you gotta understand, these people were searching for something deeper, a more profound spiritual truth. So when these ancient ideas arrived, man, it was like planting a seed in the most fertile soil imaginable.
In Emerson, he was just completely captivated. He wrote in his journal that it felt like this ancient voice was wrestling with the exact same questions that kept him up at night. For him, this wasn't some exotic curiosity from a faraway land. No, this was a living, breathing philosophy that spoke directly to his modern world. And you can see the influence so clearly. For instance, take a core Vedantic idea like karma, the universal law of cause and effect. Emerson takes that and just brilliantly rephrases it for an American audience. So these ideas weren't just being read, they were being absorbed, digested, and integrated into a whole new way of thinking. This really shows how personal it all became for him. This quote from his journal, it's not just an intellectual thought. He's describing a mystical experience. He's talking about feeling a direct, personal connection to a universal consciousness. And that feeling of oneness, that is the absolute cornerstone of Vedanta. And let me tell you, these ideas were radical at the time. I mean, after he gave his famous divinity school address, which was steeped in these concepts of divinity being within everyone, Emerson was banned from speaking at Harvard, his own alma mater. Banned for nearly 3 decades. That's how much he shook things up. But an idea this powerful couldn't stay locked away in one man's study. Through 2 of his most famous followers, it really started to seep out and shape the heart and soul of American literature and culture. So first up you have Henry David Thoreau. When he famously went off to live in his cabin at Walden Pond, what book did he take with him? The Bhagavad Gita. And for him, it wasn't just another book on the shelf. He called it his constant companion, his source of daily inspiration. And the crucial thing is, he didn't just read the philosophy, he tried to live it. He lived as a hermit, practiced a simple life. He even called himself a yogi in his personal letters. You could seriously argue he was America's very first yogi, putting these principles into action. And then, of course, there's America's great poet, Walt Whitman. His work is just infused with this Vedantic intuition, this idea that the divine isn't in some far-off heaven. It's right here. It's everywhere. It's in the faces of ordinary people. It's in himself. It's in every single particle of the universe. Okay, so let's fast forward now to the 20th century, because this is where our story takes a really wild, unexpected turn. The very same ideas that inspired the poets started to resonate with the pioneers of a field that was turning our entire understanding of reality completely upside down: quantum physics. I mean, you have visionaries like Nikola Tesla, who was actually corresponding with a Hindu monk, and then you have the founding fathers of quantum mechanics themselves, Erwin Schrödinger and Werner Heisenberg. All of them found themselves grappling with concepts that sounded strangely familiar. Concepts that echoed ancient Vedantic thought. I mean, just listen to Schrödinger here. He is explicitly using Vedanta to make his point. He's arguing that consciousness isn't billions of separate little me's running around, but that it's a single, unified whole. For him, it was like the ancient sages and the cutting-edge physicists were pointing to the exact same truth.
And this connection is even immortalized at CERN, the largest particle physics lab on Earth. Right outside its main building, there's the statue of the Hindu deity Shiva, the cosmic dancer. And it's there to symbolize the universal dance of creation and destruction, which is exactly what the physicists inside are studying at the subatomic level. Which finally brings us back full circle to Oppenheimer. You see, he wasn't an outlier. He was inheriting this rich, century-long tradition of American thinkers and scientists engaging deeply with these ideas. His fascination with the Bhagavad Gita was really the culmination of this whole intellectual journey. And his connection was incredibly deep. This was no casual interest. The man learned Sanskrit just so he could read the Gita in its original form. He called it the most beautiful, philosophical song he knew. He carried a worn-out copy with him everywhere he went and was constantly giving copies to his friends. It was his intellectual anchor.
So let's picture the scene. It's the Trinity test site in the middle of the New Mexico desert. The final countdown hits 0. An artificial sun ignites the pre-dawn sky. And in that one moment of terrible, awe-inspiring triumph, 2 lines from his beloved Gita flash into his mind.
The first line captured the overwhelming, almost divine spectacle of the blast itself. It's a verse describing a vision of the universal form of God, a light brighter than 1,000 suns. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated awe.
But that awe was immediately followed by a chilling, sobering realization of the destructive power he had just unleashed. And this second line, from the very same chapter, captured the terrible responsibility of his creation, forever linking the peak of modern science with an ancient scripture.
So here's the thing. This story isn't just history. Those same fundamental questions that drove Emerson and Thoreau and Oppenheimer, they are re-emerging right now with our most powerful new technology. You know, thousands of years ago, the Upanishads, these foundational texts, were asking, what is the power that makes us see? What makes us think? Today, AI engineers are facing the mirror image of that exact problem. They're asking, how can we build a machine that truly perceives and comprehends? Is consciousness something we can just code into existence? Or is it something way more fundamental? As our technology gets more and more powerful, these ancient questions just become more urgent. That same search for meaning, for an understanding of consciousness, that really began for America with Emerson reading a translated book in his study, well, that search is happening all over again. It reminds us that what Thoreau called the great knowledge might be more relevant right now than ever before.